Hi, Jeannie. It's great to see you. Are the rumors true? Are you dating Anderson Paak? Are you?
Have you seen his movie? It's so good.
How is it?
You look beautiful, Jay.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you arriving at Andy's.
Jeannie Mai is having the kind of month that makes you want to turn your phone off and disappear. Within the span of a few days, Anderson Paak reportedly walked away before they could even make the relationship official. And then Jeezy stepped out and confirmed what the streets had already been whispering about for weeks. He and Nia Long are a thing, publicly, proudly, and looking every bit as stable and intentional as anything Jeezy has done in his post-divorce life.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write my list.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna forgive.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna forget.
But see, I'm looking in your eyes and I'm not really buying that.
I'm gonna forgive, but I'm not gonna forget.
The timing could not be worse for Jeannie. She was barely off her TikTok post about being in the most fulfilling love story she had ever known before that love story apparently evaporated. And now her ex-husband is being photographed glowing beside one of the most respected women in Hollywood, while Anderson Paak is out here making it very clear in his own way that leaving was the right call. Everything Jeannie was trying to sell, the healed woman, the thriving chapter, the upgraded life, is not landing the same anymore. Because the picture on the other side of her story looks considerably better than the picture she is currently living inside.
I love it. You know, I think life partners are amazing. You know, I would think so.
Wait a minute, how did you feel when the internet said you was trying to holler at Nia Long by any means necessary?
They wasn't lying. It was not lying.
Right. You said real niggas don't cheat.
They don't.
No, they don't.
Hold on.
She said, really?
You know what I'm saying? I'm not, that ain't in my blood.
That's real.
But when you say I was trying to holler, yeah, I was, you know, but.
Let us lay out exactly how we got here and why the optics are as bad as they are. Jeezy and Nia Long finding each other is not random, and it is not fast. The groundwork for this connection was laid in one of the more quietly devastating periods both of them were navigating simultaneously. Nia's breakup from Ime Udoka, the man she had been with for years, who she had uprooted her entire life for, moving from Los Angeles to Boston only weeks before he was publicly exposed by the Celtics organization for having multiple affairs with team staff members, was one of the more public and more brutal relationship endings the culture had witnessed in years.
Did you go to therapy with her?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Right.
So you actually addressed it,
Right.
tried to work through it, tried to do the work, and it just was like not happening.
No.
Well, then you tried.
Yeah.
The specific cruelty of the way it happened, Udoka knowing the exposure was coming and still not telling Nia, still watching her settle into their Boston life, still maintaining the secret until the organization's statement forced it into the open, left Nia blindsided in the most public and most humiliating way possible. She described it in an interview with the specific raw honesty of someone who was not performing grief, but actually inside it. She said she literally felt like her heart had jumped out of her body, that the most heartbreaking piece of it was watching her son's face.
You know, I had a really public breakup recently. It was a wake-up call for me in the sense of like, okay, you're going to do this on your own and you're going to be fine.
Right.
And you're not going to worry about what anyone thinks and has to say, because the relationship was rocky for a very long time. So, because I don't believe another person can break anyone up.
Right.
Like, I don't buy that, right?
When the Celtics made what she described as a very private situation public, that no one from the organization had even checked on her or her children in the aftermath, and that when the relationship ended, Udoka essentially stopped being a functional co-parent. The betrayal of the affair compounded by the abandonment of the responsibilities that came after. Around the same time, Jeezy was navigating the wreckage of his marriage to Jeannie. His divorce filing had blindsided her. She was still publicly celebrating his book launch, calling him her inspiration, showing up for the relationship in every visible way, while he had apparently already made his decision and was managing the paperwork in private.
My older son saw me trying to keep.
Do what I'm doing.
But did you go to therapy with her?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Right. This has not been a easy journey.
Right.
I can tell you that I'm sad. I can tell you that I'm disappointed.
Jeezy denied everything and framed Jeannie's allegations as manipulation designed to influence the custody proceedings around Monaco. The specifics of what was true in that filing will be adjudicated in court. What is not in dispute is that both people came out of that marriage carrying significant damage. Two people processing significant damage at the same time, moving in overlapping industry circles, who both needed someone who understood what a messy and public end of a serious relationship actually feels like from the inside.
I had to be respectful because I was still, finalizing, you know what I'm saying? So it was hard. It was tough. Staying focused.
Okay.
He's not spin the block.
Would you spin the block on that real quick?
On who?
I mean, on the other one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, everything is finalized. If we good
I'm gonna press
now?
pause. I'm gonna hit the pause button. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna play about that.
Oh, so you saying we might see her at some of these shows?
I mean, listen.
That is the specific soil in which what Jeezy and Nia were building grew. Fans caught the chemistry before either of them named it. There was an interview in which both of them appeared together and talked about their respective breakups. Nia speaking about the Udoka situation with the emotional directness that makes her such a compelling presence. Jeezy talking about healing and moving forward in terms that were more guarded but still visible. The dynamic between them in that conversation was not the dynamic of two industry acquaintances being professional. It had the specific warmth of people who had been present for each other in spaces the camera was not in. Jeezy eventually confirmed it himself, not through a formal announcement, but in the way that feels more honest than announcements do. He said in his own words that he had every intention of pursuing Nia. That when he said he was trying to get at her, the people who read that situation correctly were not wrong. That the situation was complicated by the fact that his divorce was still being finalized, which required him to move with more restraint than he wanted to. But that once everything was resolved, he was not going to play around about it.
You dated black guys.
Love black guys, yeah. I did. But for me, dark meat on the side, white keeps me mean and lean. You know, that's why I married white. Yeah, that's what I like.
Hold up.
He said he was pressing Park, and that people might start seeing her in certain spaces. That level of directness, a man saying openly and without embarrassment that he wanted this specific woman and was actively working toward it, is a contrast that Jeannie's situation is currently sitting next to in the most unflattering possible way. Because while Jeezy was quietly and deliberately building towards something real with Nia Long, Jeannie was posting TikToks about the most fulfilling love story she had ever known with a man whose identity she had not yet officially confirmed. The soft launch that preceded what was supposed to be the announcement. The strategic emotional reveal designed to manage the public narrative of her personal life. All of it executed with the careful precision of someone who had learned from previous chapters of her life how to control the story. And then Anderson Paak reportedly ended it before it could officially begin. The reason Anderson walked, the dark meat on the side comment that resurfaced from years ago, the pattern of behavior that multiple people from Jeannie's past have described in similar terms, had apparently reached him through the same channels it reaches everyone. And by the accounts coming out of his camp, once it reached him, he made a decision with the specific speed of a man who felt he had enough information and did not need more. Anderson's public behavior since has been read by people watching as the behavior of someone who feels vindicated rather than wounded. He is not performing grief or confusion. He is moving with the clean energy of someone who believes they narrowly avoided something and is processing that belief through a particular kind of public distance from the situation. The subtext of his positioning, both women's exes are now in stable, functional relationships while Jeannie is the consistent variable across outcomes that have not worked, is not a subtext he appears to be making any effort to suppress. The specific symmetry that is apparently driving Jeannie's current emotional state is this. Her first husband, Freddie Hartice, is remarried and has built a family with someone else. Jeezy is now with Nia Long, not just any next relationship, but one of the most respected and beloved figures in the industry. Anderson is positioned as someone who got out before the situation could produce its inevitable outcome, and Jeannie is in the middle of all of it, watching the men she has been connected to continue their lives successfully, while the narrative forming around her own is becoming increasingly difficult to control. That is the specific pain of this moment. It is not simply that Jeezy has moved on. People move on. That is survivable and expected. It is who he moved on with and the ease and the intentionality with which he apparently did it. Nia Long carries a specific cultural weight in the conversation about black women in Hollywood. The talent, the legacy, the grace, the way she has navigated a very public betrayal with the kind of dignity that makes people root for her happiness. Jeezy stepping out publicly with her is not just a relationship announcement. It is a statement about the quality of what he was looking for and apparently finding. Next to that, everything Jeannie was trying to position herself as the healed woman, the one in the fulfilling love story, the person whose post-Jeezy life was thriving in ways his departure had made possible, loses its force. The narrative she was building required her to look like she had landed somewhere better. The current reality is that she appears to have not landed anywhere, while Jeezy has landed somewhere the culture is going to be enthusiastic about for a long time. The insiders describing Jeannie as furious about this are not describing someone surprised that Jeezy is dating again. They are describing someone who understands the optics of the specific comparison being made and who cannot fully escape what that comparison implies. She has been the consistent factor across multiple relationships that have ended in ways that left the other party moving on to stable and visible happiness. That pattern is now 3 examples deep. And the argument that she is the problem, the one Anderson Paak is apparently operating from, the one that is circulating through the commentary surrounding this entire situation, is getting harder to dismiss the more the pattern repeats. Jeannie has tools the situation has not yet stripped from her. Monaco is her daughter too, and the co-parenting reality with Jeezy means their lives remain connected in ways that neither a new relationship on his side nor a failed one on hers can fully sever. She has a platform, a professional identity, a body of work in television and hosting that exists independently of her romantic life. She has been through hard public chapters before, her first marriage ending, the public scrutiny of the Jeezy divorce, and she has survived them. What she has not survived yet is the specific compound weight of all 3 exits happening in the same compressed window of public attention. Anderson's abrupt departure, Jeezy's very public arrival somewhere new, the pattern argument gaining traction in public commentary, all of it landing at once, all of it visible, all of it being processed by an audience that has been following this story closely enough to understand what the accumulation means. The Nia Long dimension of this is worth examining beyond the simple optics of who Jeezy ended up with. Because Nia is not just a famous name attached to a more flattering comparison. She is a specific kind of figure in the culture. Someone who was publicly devastated by a betrayal that the entire internet watched happen in real time, who handled the aftermath with a composure and a grace that made people genuinely root for her recovery, who raised her son through a period of upheaval that would have broken many people publicly, and who has continued to exist in the industry with her dignity and her reputation fully intact. For Jeezy to have found his footing with someone who carries that specific kind of cultural weight, who was not a rebound or a status move, but someone he pursued deliberately and respectfully, waiting until his own affairs were fully resolved before making his intentions known, says something about where his head was during the period when his public image was taking hits from multiple directions simultaneously. The Jeannie divorce proceedings were ugly in ways that implicated him significantly. The domestic violence allegations existed in the public record, regardless of how they were adjudicated. The cryptic Instagram posts about focusing on who he was becoming and releasing who was not coming with him landed as cold and calculated to a significant portion of the audience. His handling of the custody situation, the back and forth, the unpaid obligations that Jeannie took him to court over, added to a portrait of a man who was not exactly covering himself in grace during the separation. And yet here is Jeezy, with Nia Long, having navigated that entire period quietly enough to build something with a woman whose own healing and whose own standards for what she accepts in a partnership are well documented. That is not a simple narrative. It complicates the version of the story in which Jeezy is entirely the villain of the divorce chapter. It suggests that the person Jeannie was married to and the person visible now in the Nia Long situation may have more overlap than the divorce proceedings made comfortable to acknowledge. Jeannie has always been strategic about how she presents her personal life. The TikTok post about the fulfilling love story is the most recent example, but it is far from the only one. Her entire public brand is built around a kind of radical transparency that is actually carefully curated. The specific vulnerability that feels genuine because it touches real feelings, but is deployed with an awareness of what it communicates and when it communicates it. She is good at this. She has been good at it for years. What is harder to manage is when the curated transparency runs into a reality that does not cooperate with the curation. The Anderson situation ending before it could be officially announced meant that the post about the most fulfilling love story landed not as the beginning of a chapter, but as the documentation of something that was already ending. The timing turned what was supposed to be a controlled narrative reveal into evidence of a gap between what Jeannie was presenting publicly and what was actually happening. That gap, between the presented version and the actual version, is the thing that has followed her across the post-Jeezy period in ways she has not been able to fully close. The TikTok post about Anderson was the presented version. Anderson leaving was the actual version. Jeezy going public with Nia Long is, for the audience that has been watching, confirmation that the actual version of Jeannie's situation is considerably messier than the presented one. Her instinct is going to be to present again, to find the frame that works, the caption that lands, the appearance that communicates what she needs it to communicate. She is skilled enough at this that it will probably work eventually. The question is what the accumulation of these moments does to the audience's willingness to accept the next presentation without the skepticism that the gap between previous presentations and actual reality has earned. Anderson Paak's positioning in this situation is the last element worth examining carefully. He is not making explicit statements. He is not giving interviews about Jeannie or explaining his decision in detail. What he is doing is existing in public in a way that communicates everything the explicit statement would communicate without requiring him to say it directly. The energy of a man who feels he narrowly escaped something. The specific distance of someone who has categorized an experience and is not interested in revisiting it. The implied endorsement of the pattern argument simply by declining to push back against it. That is a specific kind of humiliation, not the loud kind that gets clipped and shared everywhere. The quiet kind that accumulates over time and is harder to address precisely because there is no single statement to respond to. Jeannie cannot argue with his silence. She cannot dispute an implication. She can only continue to be visible in a way that challenges the narrative. And right now, the narrative has more material than she does. The deeper issue underneath all of the drama and the optics and the pattern argument is something that gets discussed less than it should. What Jeannie Mai's actual life looks like, separate from who she is or is not in a relationship with. She has Monaco. She has a daughter who is young enough that the turbulence of her parents' post-divorce situation is going to shape her experience of what family and love look like. That is not a small thing. Whatever is happening between Jeannie and Jeezy in the public space, their co-parenting reality is the thing that will matter most over the next decade and a half. She also has a career that exists independently of her romantic life, even if the romantic life has been dominating the conversation around her name for the past year. The hosting work, the production credits, the brand relationships, all of it has been somewhat overshadowed by the divorce drama, and now by this latest wave of coverage. Whether she can redirect the public conversation back toward the professional dimension of who she is, or whether the personal narrative has become too dominant to manage around, is the strategic challenge she is facing. Jeezy and Nia are probably not thinking about any of this. They are living their situation in real time, building something they have apparently both decided is worth building and letting the public attention land where it lands. Nia in particular is someone who has demonstrated through the Udoka chapter that she does not manage her personal life for the audience, she lives it, and the audience gets whatever she decides to share on her own schedule. That quality, the genuine privacy of two people who are together because they are together and not because of what being together communicates, is what makes the comparison to Jeannie's situation so poignant. Jeannie has always let the audience in. That has been part of her brand. And the letting in is what is now working against her. Because every piece of the story she shared about the fulfilling love story and the healing chapter and the open heart is now sitting in the record alongside an outcome that tells a different story. The audience remembers what was presented. And right now the gap between what was presented and what happened is the thing they cannot stop talking about. Jeezy has Nia Long. Anderson Paak has his distance. And Jeannie Mai is having the worst month of a year that was already not going the way she planned when she posted that TikTok. Something is going to shift. It always does. The question is whether what shifts next works in her favor or simply adds another data point to the argument that the audience has already started making about the consistent variable across these outcomes. She is capable of more than this chapter suggests. Whether she can demonstrate that before the narrative fully hardens is the challenge in front of her right now. Jeezy did not just confirm a relationship with Nia Long. He confirmed it in the specific period when that confirmation would land with maximum weight against Jeannie's situation. Whether the timing was conscious or simply the natural result of his own life moving at its own pace, he finalized the divorce, things with Nia developed, and he stopped pretending it was not happening. The effect is the same. The comparison is drawn. The optics are what they are. And Jeannie is sitting inside them without an obvious exit. The most fulfilling love story she had ever known did not survive long enough to be officially announced. The man she described it about is gone. The man she was married to is glowing beside Nia Long. And the industry is watching the full picture come into focus in ways that no amount of TikTok positioning can fully redirect. So here's where this sits. Jeezy has confirmed his relationship with Nia Long after the two of them built something real during overlapping periods of post-breakup recovery. Anderson Paak reportedly exited Jeannie's situation before it officially began, apparently convinced he had seen enough. Both of Jeannie's significant exes are now visibly thriving in other directions. And the narrative about who the common factor is across these outcomes is getting louder in proportion to how clearly the pattern is now presenting itself. Do you think the comparison between how Jeezy and Nia's situation looks versus what Jeannie has been navigating is as damaging as it appears?